Good morning, everybody, and a happy Wednesday morning. As I said, here is the review for part one of Meghan Markle's cooking show. It was as bad as I thought it was going to be, and I'm going to cover it all in here, as well as some other stuff. So let's just jump in, shall we? Let's go. Before we get into the first episode, you guys remember this picture where Meghan is literally in pajamas and she's hugging Serena Williams? Well, afterwards, they apparently went to lunch, and who was there? Backgrid, of course. So, of course, the pictures came out, the two of them coming out. Meghan then went over to hug this gentleman that was sitting outside. Now, for those of you who believe the whole article from People magazine where the neighborhood loves her and protects her, that is not just some rando person sitting there that happens to be the owner of the restaurant who probably makes sure that she has a table on tap. But so she goes, here's Serena, meet him. And then Meghan does her usual bit and grabs Serena by the arm and is literally dragging her. Like, what is that? And look at Meghan's face. Something's wrong here. Maybe it's free publicity for free food. All right, next up, another magazine that we know is a pro-Meghan, it's one of her go-tos besides People, is Us magazine, who then put out this article. We watched all 8 episodes, and they basically gushed about it. Now, here's the next weird thing that happened. Meghan apparently dropped onto a private jet and flew to New York because there was a watch party, and she goes into this, room. Well, just watch what happens. Okay, I got a big surprise in store for some girls who have been following the TIG and everything else for so long. So, big surprise. And then she walks into the room. So, what did you guys think? Oh my God, it's Meghan. Yeah, you guys see what's going on here. This was a complete setup. It was set up by Netflix. These are all Sussex Squad members. These girls are young. They had stick-on tattoos as ever. They had the TIG wine, and they were handing out bags. And then I'm sure as soon as she was done, she hopped right back on her private jet, and she headed straight back to California to see just how bad this was really going to be. Now, of course, Meghan called the Paps, so when she got off of her private jet, somebody just happened to be there to take her picture as she was walking into the event. Then the pictures started showing up on Instagram, and of course, we found out later on that all the people that were at this event, this premiere, were all Sussex Squad members. Why am I not surprised by this? And of course, we found out also from Meghan's own account that this was set up by Netflix, looked like they did the absolute minimum for her. And then Meghan put this up. It's a party. Everyone's invited, except, of course, her family. All right, let's jump in. So right off the bat, she lied because when she walks in and goes, "What'd you think? This was a watch party. All white, young, impressionable girls." All right, let's move on now to the Netflix show. This reminded me a lot of their 6-part docuseries. Remember, the docuseries, it was all about the music and the background music and stuff. Same thing, okay? So here's what she did. Oh, by the way, she also took a swipe at the royal family again. Typical. The first episode is called Hello, Honey, and it introduces her friend Daniel. It starts off with Meghan walking towards the beehive with her professional beekeeper because she doesn't keep her own bees. And she's talking about how you have to speak softly. You don't want to spook the bees. And she says, I can't do this part. This always freaks me out. So basically, she stands around while the beekeeper does all the work. She throws out a lot of platitudes like, we've got good vibes for good hives. And in the meantime, there's music playing in the background. How do you bear the full weight? How does the long way feel? Just like they did with the other show. They talk about the lifespan of a bee and their different jobs. And she's like, oh, look how much honey we have on that rack. Oh, it's so heavy, the weight of the honey. Wow. And she's over emoting about honey. This is also a reminder because this scares me. I'm trying to stay in the calm of it, but this is a reminder that it's beautiful to be connected. The bees have been here since the dinosaurs and, on and on and on with the music playing. I'm trying to find my way. I was thinking my mind was made. It's just like their 6-part docuseries with the music. You were making my heart. And she's like, oh, we're going to have all this honey. And then the music fades and we see the rental house that Meghan used to cook. And you see her walking in with flowers and she starts talking. The guy behind the camera says, who's coming over? Meghan goes, Michael, my good friend Michael. We've known each other a really long time. And whenever I have somebody come and stay, it's one of my favorite things is to prep the guest room. She continues, I think about the two places of a guest experience. Once they've gone into their room, what's at the side of the bed for them? That's their good morning and good night moment. And what's in the bathroom so they can have a beautiful soak? So she decides to make bath salts. So here's what she does. First, she says you need Epsom salts, and she pours them without measuring or anything into a bowl, so you have no idea how much she's actually using. And she talks about how it relaxes the body. Then she adds arnica. She goes, I use a lot of that in my house. That's toddler life, lots of bumps and bruises. And the oil is great for treating small bruises. She then mixes it up, and then she puts in lavender because it's calming at the end of the night. Then she puts in Himalayan pink salt because she says it's an anti-inflammatory, and it also, the color is really pretty. And then she starts spooning it into this jar, and there's not enough, so she starts bulking it up by adding more Epsom salts. If you want to make these for yourself, all you got to do is go on Pinterest for all the directions, and they even give you how much of each ingredient to put in. It's not rocket science, all right? Next thing she says is, I want to make a tea bag for the bath. So you don't want these things in the drain. And she puts in like little bits of flour, and she puts some salts in the bottom, some rosebuds, some dried lavender. And she puts all of these things in this tea bag because she says you don't want them in the drain. And she tied it up and she threw it in the bag. Well, guess what? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you go on Pinterest and there are the herbal tea bags complete with lavender and rosebuds. She then continues to go on about her friend and how they've been friends for 15 years, and he started with her when she was on Suits, and they've been like together ever since then. And now, of course, they've transcended makeup and they're friends. And then Meghan Markle took a swipe at the royal family. She goes, he's just been in my life for the before, during, and after, shall we say, with this little smirk on her face. He's a mainstay, she says, and the kids call him Uncle Daniel. According to her, the best compliment you could get as a hostess is when you say to them in the morning, how did you sleep? How was your night? And they go, I had the best sleep. Yeah. And right off the bat, she says, I'm putting these things over here because this isn't my house. Daniel's going to be staying at my house, but I'm going to prep everything here. Then she goes, finally, let's do some bedside blooms. And basically she cuts up a bunch of flowers and sticks them in some vases. And she goes, it's just a sweet gesture. All these things to let someone know you're thinking of them. And these are going to come back with me too. She then tells us all about what she's going to do in the episode. She's going to make a cake. They're going to make some beeswax candles. And she lets us know what's going to happen. The next thing she did was really groundbreaking. She decides to prep some snacks, and she throws a couple of dried corn cobs in a bag, sticks them in the microwave, pops the popcorn, and then says, I need to add some salt to it. This is really groundbreaking stuff. She also pours some truffle oil on it. She's like, look how fun that was. Wow. And then she bags it, and then she labels it with her cursive writing. She also, by the way, gets these peanut butter and pretzel things and bags them up also, and talks about how she loves them and her mother Doria loves them also. She says, now we're all ready for Daniel's arrival, and that's the end of day one. Let's move on to day two. Next up, it's the next day. She's in another very expensive designer outfit, and she's making coffee. Then the music, me and my cousin got coffee by the Eiffel Tower. I got coffee. That's what it is. It's the whole music thing. So the next thing you know, she's cooking a vegetable tray for this guy. She's cutting the vegetables, and she's like, the deal is in the details, and she's putting little flowers and, all that kind of stuff on it because it has to be just perfect. And she goes, Michael's here. He's here. And Michael goes, this is so beautiful. And Meghan goes, yes, I wanted to make it colorful and joyful just for you. And he goes, how long did that take? And she goes, as you know, with your work and your art, it's the details that make it in the end. At one point, this guy picks up some peas that are still in the pot and goes, why doesn't anybody ever present peas like this? They're like green pearls. Yeah, because she chopped vegetables so well. She's always throwing out the word joy. He goes, I always put on weight when I come to your house. And she goes, well, it's pounds of joy. Then she says, I'm going to make you pasta. It's single skillet pasta, all in one pot. So she puts this guy to work cutting tomatoes. And the first thing he does is slice open his finger. He goes, 5 minutes in. She goes, but he's an artist. These hands can't be hurt. And he goes, well, I'm left-handed and I cut the right hand, so, we're all good. And she puts a green Band-Aid on his finger, and he's gushing about the color of the Band-Aid. Not kidding. And these are her directions. Put a kettle of water on the stove boiling. Throw the tomatoes and some salt and olive oil. She doesn't say how many tomatoes or how much salt or olive oil. Then she cuts up garlic and throws that in. Doesn't say how much. I warned you before this was going to be like Barbie. Hi, Barbie, you're the best. No, you're the best. And this is exactly what started to happen. The guy goes, you've always shown your love through food, like a big love language. I remember the first time we worked together. And you were so appreciative of me coming early. You offered me room service isn't up and running yet. Can I get you, a cup of coffee, or can I get you this? But, and then of course we had the TIG. And so now and then the next thing you know, they're plugging the TIG. And she's talking about how he was her beauty editor for the TIG. And they were doing it between scenes in her trailer. And, it's just so crazy to me because you were working and, then you had more work, etc., etc., etc. It's all in the spirit of sharing things that we love. All right, so then they move on finally to the recipe. And she says, I use a whole pack of spaghetti. It's dried pasta. And she puts it in the pot on top of the other stuff that she's got. Then Daniel zests a lemon while she puts out some chard and kale. And then the next thing you know, they're pouring water over the pasta. So then they have to fill the space. So they talk about how he got into makeup and it was his grandmother. She, by the way, is running around in shorts and barefoot in the kitchen. So she pours the boiling water without knowing how much water actually. And then she puts the cover on. They let it come to a boil. She's grating some cheese. She's chopping some greens. And then they take the lid off and she lets it go until all the water is out of it. Now, in the meantime, she throws on the green vegetables and she throws in the Parmesan cheese. And she's like, look at this. It's the starchy pasta water. And that's what we're going to keep. And blah, 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 blah. And then we cook it another 4 to 5 minutes. Then she tells him how to plate it correctly. Because what you have to do is put a little dollop of the sauce, according to her, in the bottom of the bowl, and then twirl the spaghetti and then put that on top of the dollop. And that's how you serve it up. And then, of course, they try it and they both declare it's the best thing they've ever had in their life. Now, for those of you who are wondering, how in the hell would I copy this? Because she doesn't actually give a recipe. Never fear, Pinterest is here. And every single thing that you just saw her do is in recipes that have been sitting for years on Pinterest boards. Just as an FYI, she also name drops Beyonce because her friend said her food is cozy. And she goes, yeah, it's like that Beyonce song, Cozy. So next they go back to the bees. Then the upbeat music. My mama said you broke my heart. I should have listened. And then they're back to the bees. And she's harvesting the honey and she goes, oh, this is just as good as it gets. I love this. I don't even like honey before, but now I just love it. And of course, the beekeeper puts in his 2 cents. And they're talking about, I have to have every drop. And then, of course, she says to him, I've got all this beeswax left over. Now, what do I do with this? And she said, I think I'm going to make candles. And he goes, oh, yeah, great idea. Did you know that beeswax candles help clear the air? She's like, oh, really? Oh, yeah, nature's magic. And I'm literally gagging in my mouth. So then it snaps back to Daniel. Come on, Daniel, we're going to make candles. And they don't know how, so they actually have a book. and they're following all the directions. This is how you do the wick. This is how you melt the wax. This is what we're going to do. This is how hot it's going to be. These are the flavors you can put in. Oh, let's dip in some lavender, this, that, and the other. And then he goes to pour the wax because she basically refuses. She's afraid she hurt herself. And then after they're done, they name their candles. Now, the candles have to sit for 3 to 4 hours. So she says, let's go bake a cake. She says, I already baked it in advance. So now we have to just go do the decorating. And then they head over to do the honey cake. Okay. So this is the only time in the entire episode she actually says this much flour, this much this much that. And you put the dry ingredients here and you put the wet ingredients here. But I was kind of getting disgusted out because number one, all that jewelry, that was the first thing. Number two, she was doing unnecessary things like sifting things. And she said, baking's not my favorite thing. She had her hands in her hair in the middle of the cooking process. It was kind of disgusting. She literally just took a lemon honey cake, and decided she was going to make a 3-layer cake out of it. Now, I went on Pinterest and found the recipes. The only difference is she cut hers up into 3 layers. Okay, then she brings him in, she levels the cake, and then she says, oh, I've got buttercream icing here and a glaze that I made. And we're going to brush the glaze on, and then we're going to put the buttercream on, and then we're going to, put raspberries and mint leaves. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I'm just like, this is baking 101. And she shows him how to make a dispensary bag out of a Ziploc bag, which I think everybody in the world knows how to do. And then they go back to the candles. Oh, we're so impressed with our creativity. Oh, yes, I'm so impressed with our patience. Let's name them. He named his Come Home Soon and the Corey candle for her, his husband. Then back to the kitchen they went. So back to the kitchen they go to finish decorating the cake, and they talk about dotting a few things at the bottom and how to make them stay, and Levin verbena leaves. She's literally pulling leaves off of flowers that are in the kitchen and putting them on the cake. So I don't know if those are edible. I would hope so. And then she says, I'm going to make you some tea. Wait till you hear this recipe. Honey, lemon, ginger, and turmeric. Just for the hell of it, she puts a little cayenne pepper in it and then puts some boiling water in it. He goes, oh my God. And she goes, yes, this is for your allergies. When did she become medical? So she says, okay, let's take this tea outside with the cake and let's just enjoy it. And they go out on, with the fancy expensive plates that she's merching. And he goes, look at this view. Oh my God. She goes, yeah, it's not a green screen. It's real. This is it. And the scene ends with him taking a bite going, shut up. This is just so good. It's so light. It's so tasty. Thank you so much for having me. He says, thank you for my basket. And she goes, well, it's doing things with intention and doing it for someone that you love, something that you love. Then they sit back. What a beautiful day. Let's toast to love. And they clink glasses. Cheers. You can't end on a better note than that. Reviews started coming out just for this episode, because remember, I'm doing one at a time. And what they said was, that's not food, that's punishment. With so little water, the dish has to be gluey, sticky, starchy. And the fact that she gives her kids leftover noodles in their lunch boxes, her food looks basic and boring. And they said it was another American destroying Italian food. Oh my, I knew this was going to flop. They also said it was very inauthentic, which we all knew that it was. All right, you guys, that is the end of number 1. And tomorrow you will get number 2. Hope to see you there.